So let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. This is your host, The Occult View. Give me 1 second. Okay, so, you know, I've been watching old episodes of Dynasty, the original Dynasty that came out in 1981, not that god awful remake that they did in 20 or reboot that they did in 2017. I didn't like that one. I watched it, but I didn't really like it. I just watched it because it was so ridiculous, but I looked at it. But the Dynasty that I watched, the original one, and I've talked about this before because Dynasty was really a large part of the pop culture of the 80s and partially into the early 90s. A lot of people liked Dynasty. It was a groundbreaking show that depicted a lot of controversial storylines from homosexuality to interracial um, introduction into the Carrington family when we found out that Dominique Devereaux, played by the wonderful Diane Carroll, was related to the Carrington family, and she was indeed a Carrington, and she was black. So the Carrington had black family. And one of the reasons that I really enjoyed it was because of Diane Carroll. She was really a godsend on that show, and I'm really disappointed that her character did not stay on much longer. I guess they couldn't have a beautiful, talented black woman who could match Joan Collins, in competition. And what's interesting is she and Joan Collins were actually pretty close in real life. They were really good friends. But anyway, one thing that I've learned from watching Dynasty, Blake Carrington wasn't shit. Blake Carrington wasn't shit. And I'm just talking about it because, that's what I do. I'm the occult view. I talk about different things and how it affects our psyche and how, a lot of this art that we see in movies and TVs, because acting is an art. We see these things, but a lot of it imitates life. Blake Carrington wasn't shit. He was homophobic. He was a he was a misogynist. He believed that women were basically beneath him. And see, Chris, I'm sorry, my allergies are kind of draining. I have a sinus infection. I'm taking antibiotics for them now. So my sinuses are draining a little bit. So if I keep clearing my throat, excuse me in advance. Plus, I had a tooth extracted, and that's healing. And it's funny because I've never had a tooth extracted before. This was my first time, and it's healing. And the area where that tooth was, the hole is closing up, so it feels kind of funny. You know what I mean? It's still tender around in that area because it was not even. It was less than a week ago. So, but it's healing. So if I talk a little funny, that's why. But they wanted us to believe that Alexis was the villain, but was she really? Was she really the villain? Blake wasn't shit. He banished Alexis from Denver, from her family, from her children, and then he threatened her and told her she better stay away or he would have killed her. Something along those lines. All because she had an affair. So what? She had an affair with someone, I believe, that worked on the grounds, an employee of the Carrington estate. And she explained that she had that affair because Blake was never around. He was never around and he wasn't showing her any attention. And she was lonely. But was that really any reason for him to banish her from her children and to try to? And what he did was he systematically tried to turn her children against her. You feel what I'm saying? Then when she came back to Denver, married Cecil Colby, And she became even richer than Blake, even more powerful than Blake. That that totally changed the paradigm and the whole dynamic of the show. You got to give it to Joan Collins. She played that motherfucking role. I know a lot of people don't like Joan Collins. I'm finding out because a lot of people say she's this or that. I'm talking about her acting and how she played Alexis. Because if I'm not mistaken, they wanted to give the role to Elizabeth Taylor, Sophia Loren, and Jessica Walter, the role of Alexis. But Joan Collins was perfect for that role. That role was made for Joan Collins because she was like, they call her the poor man's Elizabeth Taylor. Okay? I don't think Elizabeth Taylor I don't think she could have played that role the way Joan did. Joan was such a bitch in that role. She was a bitch. You hear me? And she played that bitch brilliantly. But her acting, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about her personal life and her political views. I'm talking about her acting. I heard she got black in her family too, child. But that's another story. Joan Collins, the actress, that is. So she does come from her father is from South Africa. So he was white, but he's from South Africa. But that's another story. But anyway, Blake wasn't shit. He was a misogynist. And it wasn't until he lost everything that he found everything. When he lost everything, when he lost Crystal, because Crystal was presumed in a coma. She got sick. Something happened to her. She ended up being in a coma. Linda Evans left the show. Then when Dynasty came back in Dynasty, the reunion, we find out that Linda Evans' character was not in a coma. She was in some evil, sinister psychiatric unit or clinic. Not psychiatric, but she was in some form of clinic where they were keeping her. They were keeping her, but they weren't telling the family that she was not out of that. They were telling the family she was still in a coma, But it wasn't until Blake lost everything that he gained everything, including accepting his son, Stephen, for being a gay man. You know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to say that Blake Carrington wasn't shit. He wasn't shit. He was a motherfucker. But the way they would write the show, they wanted you and they wanted the audience to believe that Alexis was the real villain. But no, it was really John Forsythe who played Blake. He was the villain. You see what I'm saying? Alexis was justified in her justice, revenge, and she deserved some form of redemption. She deserved it after what he did to her. He systematically turned each one of their children against her, with the exception of that nut Adam. Adam, I ain't like him. But he turned Fallon and Stephen against her. And let's be honest, a lot of the shit that Alexis said, she wasn't telling no motherfucking lies. A lot of us have been Alexis at some point in our lives. A lot of us have been Alexis. You make a mistake or something happens and people want to hold that against you for the rest of your life. One thing about it, the character of Alexis, she loved her children. She loved her children, good, bad, or indifferent. She loved her children. No, she wasn't perfect. She made mistakes. But she would fuck you up if you fucked with one of her children. She accepted all of her children despite their flaws. Blake did not. He didn't like Stephen because Stephen was gay. And I'm not saying being gay is a flaw, but he looked at it as a flaw. That's how he viewed it. Of course, I don't view that way. You like who you like. You're an adult. You're attracted to adult same-sex people. That's your business. But Alexis never told no lies. She didn't tell no lies on how Blake treated her. She didn't tell no lies about anything. She did do some devious, fucked up ass shit throughout the show. Now, don't get me wrong, Alexis could be a devil too, but she didn't tell no lies. But that was kind of created in her. She was created. That was created. That wasn't who Alexis really was. Alexis was really not that. That wasn't her. She was made into that. She was made into a manipulative, devious, evil, sinister type of person because of life's circumstances and because of what her ex-husband did to her. When you try to separate a mother from their children, that has, I'm not trying to speak for women, but I can imagine that has a very devastating effect on the psyche of a woman, especially if the woman loves her children. You feel what I'm saying? And that's not only on a television show. I'm speaking in terms of real life. So when we look at what Alexis went through and what she was trying to say, what Alexis was trying to say is that Blake is fake. Fake and Blake. That do rhyme. Blake was fake. Blake was an illusion. Blake gave an illusion to cover up who he really was. Blake loved his children conditionally as long as they did what he said. You feel what I'm saying? If his children did what he said, he loved them. But if they wanted to be on the side of their mom, he would have a problem with that. He wanted his children to go along with everything that he did and said. It didn't matter what it was, whether it was working for his company, Denver Carrington, or whether it was living by his moral code. He wanted his children to go, even by this time, they were adults. That is what he wanted from them. That is what he demanded from them. As long as you do what I say, you can live in the Carrington mansion, you can work at my company, you can make a lot of money. But as soon as you have a difference of opinion or you try to think outside of that box, then I'm going to banish you. I'm going to harass you like he did Stephen. And like he did Adam too. Because Adam was more like their son Adam. He was more like the mother. He was more like Alexis. Even though I couldn't stand his bitch ass. He was perfect for that role too, Gordon Thompson. He was good for that role. He was very good for that role. He played that role. The point that I'm making is this. That's how the world is. And Dynasty, even though it was just a television show, it really, really gave you a mirror into the psyche and consciousness of what people in so-called power really wanted for the world. They didn't want people to think for themselves. They didn't want you to be an Alexis. They wanted you to be a Blake. Or they wanted you to be up under a Blake. Because Blake is going to tell you what you want to hear. Alexis is going to tell you what you need to hear. You see what I'm saying? Just like she told Kirby, she said, Kirby, your mother is not dead. You know, the butler's daughter. She told Kirby, you're not Carrington material. Alexis was telling the truth. Her own father told her that. Joseph, before he killed himself. But see, people don't like the truth. Alexis told her, your mother is not dead, Kirby. Your mother tried to kill her lover, and she's been in an insane asylum. This is what Alexis told Kirby I think since you were a little girl or whatever. She didn't know her mother. Kirby didn't know her mother. But Alexis told her the truth while everyone else was lying to her. It may have been a harsh truth, but she told her the truth while everyone else lied. Alexis is going to tell you what you need to hear. Blake is going to tell you what you want to hear. And that's the type of world that we live in now. The 20th century and Dynasty was an example of this, an artistic example of this. The 20th century, especially the 80s, was a time of great indulgence. The 20th century was about discovery and indulgence. The 21st century is about implementation of what was discovered in the 20th century. And the 22nd century is going to be about keeping control. And this is why I'm talking about this. I came across something that I think I vaguely heard something about, but it's been a long time. It's something called the Blue Stream Project. I believe the Blue Stream Project. And basically, let me read to you what the Blue Stream Project was all about. It's a conspiracy theory, but people believe it. It says that Project Blue Stream is a conspiracy theory that originated in the 1990s. According to the theory, I'm not going to read all this, the United States government, in collaboration with NASA, why is it always the United States government involved in these nefarious, so-called nefarious things? In collaboration with NASA, is planning a massive false flag operation in which they will simulate a second coming of Christ or an extraterrestrial invasion using advanced technology in order to establish a new world order. Now, it gives you the 4 steps of this. The first stage involves the use of technology to create earthquakes, UFO sightings, and other natural disasters in order to make people believe that a great cataclysmic event is coming. The second stage, I said I wasn't going to read all this shit, but I'm reading it anyway. The second stage involves a fake alien invasion in which holographic images of spacecraft will be projected in the sky. This is intended to create a sense of panic and confusion among the population. The third stage involves the use of technology to create a fake religious event, such as the appearance of a messiah or a prophet using holograms and other special effects. The fourth and final stage involves the implementation of a new world order, in which the world's governments will be replaced by a single authoritarian regime. The 20th century, let me go back to what I said. The 20th century was about discovery and indulgence. The 21st century is about implementation. The 22nd century is about control. And that's basically what this is saying right here. You feel what I'm saying? Now, I remember back in the 90s, probably in the throughout, it was the energy throughout the 90s, primarily even when I was a child, there was always a fear of the end of the world or impending doom or the return of Christ and, the rise of the Antichrist and all of that other stuff. In the 90s, I remember a lot of people being afraid, thinking that the world was getting ready to end. So I wonder, this Blue Stream Project shit, was this the boogeyman in the closet? Is this what people were really talking about and really afraid of? Was this the whispers that we didn't hear that other people knew about? Because a lot of times what I found out about the 1990s, there were people who knew things. They may have been in, these secret society groups and all this stuff, and they would let things slip out. And then your average person who was not privy to the conversations of these secret groups, they would come out and they would mention things like this. They would mention things like this. They would say, oh, the world is getting ready to end, but they wouldn't say that it was actually a project called Blue Stream. They wouldn't say it was a project. They would just say the world is getting ready to end. Because there have been many conversations among secret society groups about the end of the world. They have those conversations. Or how they can bring about the end of the world. And I'm going to say allegedly. I'm going to say allegedly. And I'm being led by the Spirit to talk about this. Because we live in a world of deception and illusion. I remember that show Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction that was on in the late 90s into the early 2000s. And at the beginning, at first, it was James Brolin who hosted it. Then it went from James Brolin to Jonathan Frakes, who played my man, that fine-ass Commander Riker on Star Trek. That's a fine-ass white man, I'll tell you that much. Hairy chest and everything, the way I like it, child. But anyway, he would always show you these illusions at the beginning of the show. And one thing that I know about the 1990s, that was the age of illusions. Hypnotic illusions, and how people, especially religious people, tried to convince people that everyone was getting ready to die, the world was coming to an end, and none of those things ever happened. Right? I remember Jack Vanapee, the TV televangelist, I believe. He's dead now, but him and his wife Rexella used to have a show called Jack Vanapee Presents. And every week he was talking about the end of the world, how the world was going to end. He used to scare the fuck out of me. He would be on WDCA at the time. Channel 20 was called WDCA before they changed it over to, I think they went over to UPN. Now it's something else now. I don't remember. But Channel 20, the local channel here in DC, it used to be WDCA. He used to always talk about, oh, this is going to happen, my friends. Messiah, he's coming. The Antichrist is coming. Christ is coming. He would do that every fucking Sunday. He would do that every Sunday, and that's because Jack Vanapee, he was part of that blue stream energy. Let's just say allegedly, to create and mock a so-called false return of this so-called Christ, right? So what's happening now, because I guess they can't do what they wanted to do, so now what they've done is they've created this sense of panic in the public, and a lot of people are being bamboozled by it. For example, in Miami the other day, allegedly people were at a mall somewhere in Miami, and the story first claimed that it was some teenagers with sticks and rocks who had got into an altercation at some mall, right? Then the story went from that to 10-foot shadow beings were walking through the mall, and people became panicked, and they started, shooting at the beings and whatever the case may be, right? And I'm not here to deny the existence of other beings. Of course, I'm not denying that. But when I see it on TikTok and when I see it in other places and nobody is offering footage of this incident, and then people are saying, well, they shut down all flights when that happened. Okay, maybe they did shut down all flights. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But what if, then I'm just hear me out. What if all of that was just part of the illusion? Because now I'm hearing they have CGI technology that can produce these types of visual effects and illusions, which ties into the Blue Stream project. What if them shutting down the airlines was all part of this so-called illusion? We shut down the airlines. That will convince people that something really happened. And like someone made the point, in the age with cell phones and all of these other technologies that can record, why didn't anybody take a picture of it? And I understand what people are saying that, well, when you're in a panic mode, you ain't thinking about taking no picture. That's true. That is true. But somebody would take a picture of 10-foot tall aliens if they appeared. Somebody would have some type of footage, right? Then again, maybe not. Maybe they shut down the ability or the mechanism where you could do that as well. The point that I'm making is that we're living in an age of implementation. They already laid the groundwork in the 20th century. They told you how to think and how to behave in the 20th century. They told you not to believe in real magic. They told you to be afraid of real witchcraft, and they're trying to replace it with fake magic and fake witchcraft. That's why I listen to some of the things that Jaguar Wright may say, but I can't. I really don't care for that energy, her energy too much, because she said she was going to be on a mission to kill, not kill, but basically to go after witches and warlocks, because she's a child of Yahweh. She's up under the Yahweh effect. And she doesn't have a full understanding that she has been up under fake witchcraft and fake magic. And what she's going through is a result of that. They tell you don't believe in real magic or real witches and wise ones. They tell you not to believe in those types of people or us. And when I say believe in our gifts, because it's not showing you visualizations of it. You feel what I'm saying? But they have you believe in all of this CGI or, blue stream technology. They'll have you believe in all of this holographic technology, which is a form of illusions and delusions. They want to take your focus off of spirit, and they want you to be totally carnal. And that's the same thing that Blake was doing to Alexis. Alexis was tapped into spirit. Blake was carnal. No matter what people may felt about Alexis, she was tapped into spirit. Blake was not. And what's happening in this world now, as I've always stated, they don't want people tapped into spirit. They want you to believe in the illusions that they show you. That is what they want you to believe in. So it's not far-fetched for there to have been some plan like this blue stream bullcrap, but it's not going to be the way that it was written as I read it. It won't be like that. But they are implementing it through the media and through manipulation, the manipulation of people's minds. They have people that don't want to have sex anymore with adults. They have created a society where they don't want people communicating with each other anymore. They have created a society of criminals. They've created a society of racism across the board, not just black against white. They have created a society of injustice. And this is all a recipe for implementation for the control that they want to have in the 22nd century. And they'll tell you, don't listen to the wise ones, not even the ones in your family. No, listen to Puff Daddy. Listen to Jay-Z. Not Jay-Z, I'm sorry, I didn't mean Jay-Z, no. Listen to Cat Williams, that's who I wanted to say. Listen to him with his raggedy ass. They want you to listen to everyone but yourself and your own spirit. That's the true holographic trick right there. Don't listen to no witches or wise ones, because witch means wise one. Don't listen to no witch or wise one. No, they're evil. And then you have sons and daughters of Yahweh who are trying to back that up because they've been listening to fake witches and fake warlocks and fake wise ones for so long within that industry, because that industry is not built on spirit. It's built on Yahweh. Yahweh is not spirit. Yahweh is an entity that was born out of spirit. Anyway, I just wanted to give you all a little something. This is the occult view. And that's all I really have to say. Thank you.